Everybody listen up and get prepared for something you probably don't want to hear. I know the Harry Potter series is very popular. Literally millions of people grew up with them as part of their childhoods, but I am not one of them. I was in my 30s when the movie series came out, so admittedly I am not part of the target demographic. However, I am surprised by the number of people who saw it as kids, who as adults now still say it's one of the best franchises of all time. I mean, I know nostalgia is a hell of a drug, but come on, really? I mean, I've come to learn that the vast majority of stuff I liked as a kid is crap, but, I saw them when they first came out, haven't seen them since, so it's been a while. I am willing to keep an open mind and give them a second try. However, my opinion on what is good storycraft hasn't changed in the last 10 years, so I'm not expecting much of a different outcome this time. That being said, who's interested in hearing my updated critique of the Harry Potter series? Anyone? Hands? Who's interested? Nobody? Okay, screw you guys. I'll be in my office talking to myself, I guess. Now, I want to make one thing clear. I am not talking about the books. So please, no comments about how this or that is explained or expanded upon in the books. I'm critiquing the movies based on their own merits or lack thereof. I have not read the books. I have not touched the books. I haven't even seen the books. What's that then? Well, it's just a simple tea towel. And how did I do that? I'm a Harry wizard. Sorry, that's really bad. Admittedly, these are not terrible movies. I'm probably going to sound like a broken record by the end of this, but that's because all the films have the same handful of problems scattered throughout. The same problems that keep coming up time and again, relentlessly dragging the story down. It's more of a case of death by 1,000 paper cuts rather than any obvious singular failing that can clearly be pointed to. The first scene is perfectly fine. It establishes a nice air of mystery about the world it takes place in and around the main character of Harry Potter. Alright, stop it. Stop there. Okay, I've got a problem with the next 50 minutes. First, let's start with the Dursleys. I know this is a fantasy movie with lots of magical and strange characters, but they are so one-note and one-dimensional to be practically cartoon characters compared to everyone else. I'm certain this is why they literally pack up and leave the series when things start to get serious. You can't stay serious and maintain their buffoonery at the same time. Good riddance, Dursleys. I'm glad we never found out what happened to you. Well, I'm putting them in the nitpick section, but I'm also including them in the first major problem this movie has, because they could have helped with this problem. And that problem is the lack of character development, most notably in Harry himself. I could almost highlight the entire movie for this. Harry is pretty much the same person at the end of the movie as he is at the start, but I'm highlighting it in the first 50 minutes because this is where it could have helped the most. There is a lot of stuff that happens in the first 50 minutes. Harry finds out he's a wizard and that he's going to Hogwarts. He finds out he's relatively famous and a trust fund baby. Hagrid picks up the Philosopher's Sorcerer's Stone. Harry gets his wand, learns that Voldemort killed his parents, gets on a train, meets Ron and Hermione, arrives at Hogwarts, meets Dickhead Malfoy, gets assigned a house, eats dinner, and goes to bed.
Slytherin!
It's not a witch or wizard who went bad, it wasn't in Slytherin.
Well, Ron was able to figure that out. Why can't anybody else? Obviously, this house system is a bad idea. There's lots of world building, and seeds of future developments are being planted during this time. That's fine. You need that stuff. But there's almost no character development or story progression, the feeling that the plot is advancing in meaningful ways. There should be at least one of these things happening in every scene. Both at the same time is preferable. It's certainly difficult to move the plot forward when you're spending so much time laying down the world's foundation and past. But this is where character development would help alleviate the sensation of stagnation. This could be done by establishing Harry as shy, meek, and introverted. It's perfectly understandable considering the way the Dursleys raised him, and if they punished him every time he did something magical, he could have a fear of magic instilled in him. So now, when he's thrusted into the wizarding world, instead of just being cool with everything and taking it all in stride, he could be wary and cautious about it, slowly warming up to things. It might be interesting if Draco Malfoy was the first person he met on the train. I mean, Draco was interested in being friends with Harry Potter at first. But then later, when Draco's a dick to Ron and Hermione, that reminds Harry of how the Dursleys used to treat him, and that's why he chooses to be friends with Ron and Hermione. And if he's still a bit introverted and shy, over the course of the movie, Ron and Hermione's friendship with him can encourage him and coax him out of his shell, and then he becomes the Harry Potter we all know and love. Well, some of us. At least now the foundation has been laid, and the plot has an opportunity to move forward. The subplot about the stone gets introduced, but a few minutes later and we already have more problems. This section has two problems. First of all, pointless bombastic action. The music in this flying scene with Neville is trying real hard to make it seem like this is important and exciting. But it rings dramatically hollow because it's obvious that its sole purpose for being there is to give the teacher an excuse to leave the kids alone so that the next part of the scene can happen. This isn't a showstopper, but an example of the death by 1,000 paper cuts. We'll come back to it later. The second problem here is the poor use of time versus the relevancy of whatever that time was spent on. It's closely related to pacing. Basically, the more time you spend on something, the more relevancy it should have to the plot and/or characters. It's okay to waste a little bit of time here and there, but don't dawdle. The purpose of this almost 6-minute sequence is to get Harry enrolled in Quidditch. And why is that a problem? Well, let me stick my neck out here for a second and say that I think Quidditch has very little importance to the story, considering how much time is spent on it. Now, I know there's a lot of fans of Quidditch out there, but we're going chronologically for now, so we'll get back to this later. I love this scene because it triggers the entire subplot of the Philosopher's Sorcerer's Stone, and is completely motivated by the staircase. The staircase is so annoyed by the lack of plot progression that it takes matters into its own hands and points the gang in the right direction. And this illustrates another problem with the movie, Deus Ex Machinas and happenstance. They're kind of the same thing. I consider this to be a happenstance, which isn't as egregious as a Deus Ex Machina, but it's still a very suspicious way to advance the plot. Then we get the rules of Quidditch explained, which seems like a decent game, but I'm not the first one to mention that the Golden Snitch is a dumb idea. I mean, imagine any other sport such as baseball, football, or soccer with the addition of two guys chasing a chicken on the sidelines. And if one of them catches the chicken, then the game is instantly won, and nothing that was happening on the main field was of any consequences at all. It's not a big problem, but it's a nitpick, that's for sure. The troll scene also suffers from the same problems of time versus relevancy and empty action. The only significant piece of information in this scene is the shot of Snape's injury. Again, it's not a showstopper. You can keep these key elements in the movie. It's just another paper cut. Much in the same way as watching Neville bounce around for a minute just to motivate the teacher leaving doesn't seem to be worth my time. Watching them fight a troll for 5.5 minutes just for the clue of Snape's injury doesn't feel like it's worth my time either. And why does Hermione lie about the situation, saying she was chasing after the troll? I mean, she was in the bathroom when the return to dorm orders was given, so she didn't know what's going on. It's not her fault. And Ron and Harry came to save her. The story's fine the way it is. I guess she just wants to be a martyr.
Oh, what a martyr.
Martyr, I don't See you later, you martyr, you.
And I feel much the same way about the Quidditch match. It's almost 9 minutes long, and the only significant plot point it has is that more suspicion is cast upon Snape. But Harry wins the game. That's an important moment, right? Is it? I don't know, because I don't know how Harry really feels about Quidditch. He was drafted into this. He never volunteered for it. Is he okay with that? Was it important to him to win the game? I don't know. Was it important to the story for him to win the game? Doesn't seem like it. What would be different if he lost? And I get the feeling that he couldn't have won the game if McGonagall hadn't bought him the best broom money could buy. She probably had some bets on the game and put the fix in. Wouldn't it have been more satisfying if Harry had won the game on a standard issue broom, meaning it was his own raw skill and talent that got him through it? I mean, that could build his confidence and nope, no time for character building, keep moving! So our gang gets some more information out of Hagrid. Whatever he took out of the vault had something to do with someone named Nicholas Flamel. Since Hermione's going home for the holidays, she orders Ron and Harry to somehow sneak into the restricted area of the library to get more information on Flamel. Oh, sounds difficult. How are they going to do that? Well, in the very next scene, Harry gets an invisibility cloak for Christmas. How convenient. That's at least a happenstance. So Harry uses the cloak to sneak into the library, holding out a lantern. What's the point in having an invisibility cloak if you're swinging a lantern around? Anyway, he doesn't find what he's looking for and almost burns the place down. And he sneaks past Snape, suddenly shoulder height with adults for some reason. Which leads us to another bloated, pace-killing scene with the mirror. At least this scene tells us something personal about Harry. It's one of the few scenes that does. So it is a scene that should be in the movie, but does it need to be so long? Why does he go to get Ron to take a look at the mirror? Because Ron's reaction lets him know it's all an illusion. But then Dumbledore walks in and explains everything about it anyway. We didn't need that scene with Ron at all. I wonder what Dumbledore sees in the mirror. I figured. Called it. This scene, together with the library scene, is 8 minutes long. Why am I including the library scene with this? Because the very next scene eliminates its reason for existing.
I had you looking in the wrong section. How could I be so stupid? Of course, here it is. Nicholas Flamel is the only known maker of the Philosopher's Stone.
What?
Honestly, don't you two read?
So she had the information all along. That means the only reason for that 3-minute library scene was to have Harry chased out of there to end up in the mirror room. It's not worth the time. It'd be faster just to have a staircase point him to the mirror room. Oh, you think it'd be cheap to do it twice in one movie? I think it's cheap to do it once. So the gang talks to Hagrid some more, but gets caught breaking curfew by Draco, which leads to them all getting detention. So their punishment for hanging out with Hagrid past curfew is to hang out with Hagrid past curfew and go with him into the Dark Forest, which is a place so dangerous, even Hagrid doesn't feel safe without a crossbow. But then he splits the kids up, leaving Draco and Harry with no protection at all. The faculty at Hogwarts is horrible. The number of times they endangered the lives of the students under their care is criminal. I'll say Neville was an accident, but drafting an 11-year-old who's got 30 seconds of flying experience into the Quidditch tournament is negligent. And this trek into the Dark Forest gets 4 more counts. This counter's gonna go way up in other movies. Harry gets cornered by Voldemort. How's he gonna get out of this? Oh, Deus Ex Machina. Bring it up. So the gang violates Neville's free will and goes to stop the stone from being stolen. Then there's this 12-minute sequence of them conquering the obstacles in their way. And I get exactly what's going on here dramatically. Each one of them uses a unique skill of theirs to get by each one of the obstacles. It shows what a good team they are now. Hermione uses her knowledge of herbology to get by the plants. Harry uses his flying skills to get the key. And Ron uses his chess skills to win the game. But these are things they've always been good at. So we're just seeing them do stuff they're good at again. This would be far more satisfying if these had been hard-earned skills they had developed over the course of the movie. Maybe Hermione found it easy to learn everything else except for herbology because of, I don't know, cladistics. Yeah, that's the thing. She had a hard time wrapping her head around cladistics. And she has to use that skill to get past the plants. And maybe Harry has a fear of heights. If the golden snitch had always stayed close to the ground, it wouldn't have been a problem during Quidditch, but now the key he needs to get, it's up high. He has to overcome his fear of heights to get it. And if Ron is, I don't know, you gotta make chess exciting somehow. Maybe he comes from a long family line of chess champions at Hogwarts and feels the pressure to live up to those standards, but tends to fold when under that pressure. And why did Ron choose to be the knight and not the king? If he's commanding the troops, then being the king makes most sense. That guarantees he'll be on the board till the end of the game. They did it because they wanted the drama of him sacrificing himself, and he can't sacrifice himself and win the game at the same time if he's king. Now, of course, there's not enough time in a movie to show an entire chess game, but that means we never get a good sense of whether it's well played or not. Actually, the last couple of moves don't really seem to make sense. I'm gonna try to figure this out. Alright, let me see if I can figure out the layout and see if this makes any sense. You know what? This is something some nerd has probably figured out on the internet already. I'm gonna go look it up. Yeah, I was right. The last few moves of the game were designed by international master Jeremy Silman. Now, the producers told him that the end game needed to start with a kill to set the stakes, and Ron had to sacrifice himself for good reasons. Now, the amazing thing about Stillman's endgame was that despite being a chess master, he understood that if this game is going to be in a movie, it should have a dramatic structure like a movie. And every good movie needs a good villain, so he decided to cast the White Queen in that role, making sure that she was causing the most havoc on the board and give the audience someone to root against. So here's the setup. You can see the evil White King is in a tight spot. Hermione is this rook controlling this entire column. Ron's bishop here has got this diagonal, and the pawn, blocking the only remaining square, has got the king fenced in. He has nowhere to go. All Ron has to do is move to this winning position, and it's game over. But it's not Ron's turn to move. So, White moves first. The queen takes out this pawn, starting the bloodshed. And immediately, she's threatening Harry over here and attacking the square Ron needs to get to win the game. Oh man, I already hate her guts. And Ron has to do something quick because Harry could die on the next move. So he moves his rook here to protect Harry. And this is where the movie picks up the game. So the queen brutally murders the rook. Still attacking Harry. Oh, what a bitch! In the movie, Ron sacrifices himself by moving here, putting the White King in check, which forces the Queen to kill him and allows Harry to get the final checkmate. But what you don't know is Ron didn't have to do that. There was a way to get checkmate in one less move, but involved sacrificing Harry. If Ron had told Harry to move here, putting the White King in check, then the only move available to White is for the Queen to kill him. Oh, Harry, you were so young, goodbye. And that stops the Queen from attacking the spot that Ron needs to get to win the game. Checkmate, game over, and in one less move than what you see in the movie, but requiring a dead Harry Potter. And the evil villain Queen bitch still lives! But Ron is the best friend any of us could ever hope for! He saves Harry by moving here,
putting the White King in check, forcing the White Queen to come over here and murder him. This allows Harry to waltz across the board and put the king in check. With Hermione and the other bishop covering all the other squares around the king, there's nowhere for him to go. Game over, checkmate, right? Wrong! That's bullshit! The movie lied to you! This is not checkmate! White still has a legal move on the board. Do you see it? The White Queen can block the check by moving here. But good old buddy dead old Ron over there, he knew that was coming. All Harry has to do is saunter across the board and bitch slap that bitch ass queen on her ass, and he gets the checkmate. Game over. And you can see this shot of the movie where the queen has been knocked over. But what you don't know is that Harry just didn't win the game. He also got revenge on the skank ass hoe that kept his homeboy Ronnie while doing it. Yeah! Woo! Best game of chess ever played at Hogwarts! Yeah!
Oh, what a satisfying ending! Oh man! Wow! I can't believe I spent 3 minutes explaining this chess game to you, but I'm just so amazed that it has more dramatic structure in it than the movie that it's in. Where were we? So Harry finds out it was Quirrell, not Snape, who was after the Philosopher's Sorcerer's Stone.
I don't know what I said. I don't remember.
Oh my. But I do find that all the misdirections towards Snape were pretty lame. It turns out that Snape was protecting Harry at the Quidditch match by muttering a counter curse. However, the curse that Quirrell was performing requires eye contact with the victim.
You've got to keep eye contact, and Snape wasn't blinking. Exactly.
Yeah, that's pretty much what I said. Thanks. So all Snape really had to do was stand up. And once Hermione somehow made it to the other side of the Quidditch field in 30 seconds and light Snape's cloak on fire, that makes him stand up and break Quirrell's eye contact. The whole thing seems pretty contrived. And the reason Snape got injured by Fluffy was because he headed up to that room to stop Quirrell. But at that time, Quirrell was just lying face down on the floor. If you want to stop the guy, just go over there and pick him up off the ground. This means that Snape, for some unknown reason, suspected Quirrell from the very beginning. I mean, he knows he's after the Philosopher's Sorcerer's Stone. He knows that he tried to murder a student.
I tried to kill you.
Why doesn't he tell anybody? All he does is give him a stern warning in the hallway to shape up and figure out your alliances. And this part has always bothered me. The mirror shows you your greatest desires, but how does Harry's desire actually put the stone in his pocket? And I thought his greatest desire was to have his parents back. I guess he didn't really care about them much that day. Yeah, screw you guys. Or maybe the stone appeared in his pocket the moment he stepped into the room because of the spell Dumbledore put on it. But the mirror shouldn't be able to tell him that because...
This mirror gives us neither knowledge or truth.
Yeah, internal consistency is a bitch. Another odd quirk about this story is that it would have been better if the gang had never tried to get the stone at all. Quirrell couldn't find the stone without Harry. If Harry wasn't there, the stone would have been perfectly safe. But because of those meddling kids, they almost get themselves killed on several occasions, and they're almost responsible for the resurrection of Voldemort. They're the bad guys. Anyway, we're in the final stretch. Everybody agrees that Dumbledore's a dick for pulling a bunch of surprise points out of his ass for Gryffindor after announcing that Slytherin was the winners of the House Cup. That goes without saying. But I do find the last line to be a bit odd.
Feels strange to be going home, doesn't it? I'm not going home. Not really.
Of course, this means that he considers Hogwarts to be his home now. So what he's really saying is, I'm leaving my new home, going back to that place I don't consider to be my home anymore, where they lock me under the stairs and treat me like shit 24/7. Big smile, happy ending, roll the credits. So, those are my problems with the first Harry Potter film. And I'm not saying don't let your kids watch them or you're not allowed to enjoy them on some level as an adult. I mean, I see the escapist value in them. The production design's great, all the actors do a good job, including the kids. It's just the story. The story is so meh. And I'm not claiming any of my suggestions were anything less than cliche, but the movie as it is seems to consciously avoid opportunities to build the characters or the drama between them. Anyway, I thought I was going to do this in just 2 chunks of 4 movies, but this one took a lot longer than I thought, mainly because I felt the need to explain things in detail. I'm thinking I'm going to pick up the pace, get through the other ones a lot faster, mainly because they all have the same problems. Anyway, if I haven't pissed you off too much, please like and subscribe, ring that bell for notifications, and I'm going to go check out that awesome chess game again.